Okay, we're ready. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this regularly scheduled City Council meeting. It's Tuesday, February 18th, 2024. It is 7:30 p.m., and I'm going to call this meeting to order. We're going to start by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we're going to remain standing as Pastor Traxel, your great chaplain, is going to come before us with our words of inspiration. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pastor Traxel?
We're going to say a prayer. Lord, we're so thankful today for your goodness and mercy to us. Thank you for the blessings that you have placed upon this wonderful city. We want to first acknowledge you and give you praise for your great grace upon us. Thank you for this wonderful city that you've given to us. We pray, Lord, today a blessing upon our council members and our mayor. We pray that you would give us wisdom and guidance, that we make decisions that would be best for our families and those that would highlight our city to be a city among cities in our region. I pray and thank you for every service member, all those first responders that have given their lives to protect those of us that live in this great city. I pray a blessing upon them and their families as I know the sacrifice they give each every day. I pray a blessing upon them today. I pray you continue to keep us and let there be a great spirit of unity in this place as we rejoice as those receive the rewards for the good things they've done. We thank you and praise you for all things. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much. Roll call, please, Michelle.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Binkowski.
Here.
Mayor Milan.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffitt.
Present.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Councilmember Shepherd's not with us this evening. He's having fun with his family, and we're going to have fun without him. We're going to move to the item number 5, which is approval of our agenda. Would someone like to make a motion to approve our agenda this evening?
I move the agenda be approved as presented.
Support.
Michelle?
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski.
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffitt.
Yes.
Thank you. We've approved our agenda. We'll move on to the next item, which is public comment for items on the agenda. If you would like to speak to any item that is on our agenda this evening, we welcome you to come to the podium. We'll ask that you give your name and your address, and we'll give you 3 minutes. Would anyone like to speak to any item that is on our agenda this evening? Seeing nobody move forward, we will move from public comment for items on the agenda to item number 7, which is proclamations and presentations. First up, we have Clawson Police Department Annual Awards presentation. Chief Faust.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council, and guests to our city. I'm Chief Baus with the Clawson Police Department, and I am honored to present to you the Clawson Police Department's 2024 awards in association with the proclamation. Exemplary performance by police department personnel is recognized through our established awards recognition program throughout the year. This performance not only enhances the image of the police department and the law enforcement profession, but also the community. Members of the police department are encouraged throughout the year to submit recommendations for awards when they observe a colleague performing an act which deserves recognition or may have merit consideration. The awards board, which includes myself, meets annually in January. The board reviews all recommendations for awards for the year and votes on final determination. This year, there is 11 awards that have been selected for 2024. Before we begin, I just want to announce that we're doing this a little bit differently than we've done in years past, if you've been to one of these before. So I am going to call the officers up by award, and I'll have them line up here, and then they will, at the end of our presentation here, we can have family and friends join us over in the community center while we'll take pictures and have a little dessert. All right, so the first award is a unit commendation. Officer Andriana Baydoun, Officer Lindsay Brozich, Sergeant Paul Korb, Sergeant Michael Fowler, Detective Ryan Tracy, and Detective Sergeant Jody Horn. If you could please come up here. I'll have you line up in order. Right here. You can just turn his face.
They're gonna take a picture to get the crest in there.
That's fine.
Just move out of the way.
Can we discuss that?
Gotcha. No. You're gonna take a picture.
On May 25th, 2024, at 11:19 PM, Officer Lindsay Brozich, Officer Andriana Baydoun, and Officer Paul Korb, who's now a sergeant, but was an officer at the time, responded to the 100 block of East Baker Street on the report of an assault with a knife. Upon arrival, Officer Brozich observed that the victim was stabbed. She immediately began assessing his wound and providing medical treatment, while Officer Korb collected suspect information to relay to the communication center. Officer Baydoun observed the victim to have large lacerations to his arm and shoulder and a severe laceration to his back. She applied a tourniquet to his arm and pressure on the large body wound to control the bleeding. The victim was subsequently transported to the hospital and survived the assault. Officers immediately transformed from emergency rescue to investigative mode, collecting information on the incident. Detective Sergeant Jody Horn and Detective Ryan Tracy promptly arrived on scene and began interviewing witnesses. The suspects in this stabbing incident were very quickly located, taken into custody, and interviewed by our detectives. The following day, evidence technician Sergeant Michael Fowler processed a search warrant and recovered crucial evidence in the case. This case was presented by detectives to our Oakland County Prosecutor's Office, and the suspect was charged with assault with the intent to do great bodily harm less than murder. Officers' quick and professional response led to a swift apprehension of the suspects involved in this crime and contributed to saving this person's life. Their immediate actions demonstrate the resiliency and ability required to improvise and adapt when a scene is evolving. Detectives, through their diligent work on the case, led to the appropriate charges being issued. For their dedication to the community, Officer Brozich, Officer Baydoun, now Sergeant Korb, Detective Ryan Tracy, Detective Sergeant Horn, and Sergeant Michael Fowler are hereby awarded the unit commendation on this 18th day of February, 2025. Yours? Sergeant Paul Korb.
Thank you.
This is gonna be long if we do that each time. Sergeant Michael Fowler, who just is actually working tonight and just had to respond to a run, so we'll send his aside. Detective Ryan Tracy. Detective Sergeant Jody Horn.
Chief, when I get the back up so the council can follow in behind them?
Yeah, I'm sorry, what did you say?
Is it okay to bring them back up so council follows in behind them?
Yes, sure.
So those of you that just stepped off, come back up here. And for future, those that are going to be in the ward, stick around so that we can council back. So, if you would, ma'am.
Any chairs here today?
This angle, everybody look this way. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
I don't know what to do. Number 2 is a life-saving award, Officer Andriana Baydoun and Officer Lindsay Brozich. On May 24th, 2024, at approximately 9:26 p.m., Officer Lindsay Brozich and Officer Andriana Baydoun responded to the 200 block of Highland Avenue on a report of person choking. Upon arrival, officers were guided into a residence where they located a woman who was unresponsive and turning blue. Officer Brozich and Officer Baydoun took turns providing the Heimlich maneuver and successfully dislodged the item the woman was choking on. The resident made a complete recovery. Officer Brozich and Officer Baydoun's quick response, recognition of the severity of the emergency, and immediate life-saving actions resulted in directly saving this person's life. They are awarded the Life-Saving Award. Lindsay, you can stay up here. Ward number 3 is a commendation. On January 13, 2024, Officer Lindsay Brozich completed drug recognition school and became a certified drug recognition expert for the state of Michigan. This is a very demanding course, described as the most academically challenging course that a law enforcement officer can take, in which only select officers are accepted into. She completed 122 hours of classroom curriculum, which included field certification in Florida, in addition to countless hours of dedication studying for exams. Officer Brozich is now credentialed by the International Association of Chiefs of Police and is a certified expert in scientifically validated methods of identifying and evaluating drivers who are impaired by drugs. For her dedication to the safety of our community, Officer Lindsay Brozich is hereby awarded a commendation for being a DRE expert. We'll put this up.
And then Lindsay, if you can stay there, and we'll get one with the council behind you.
Are you ready? One, two,
Award number 4 is a unit commendation. Officer Ryan Bush, Officer Kassim Baydoun, Officer Jason Rands, Sergeant Paul Korb, Sergeant Michael Fowler, Detective Sergeant Jody Horn, Detective Ryan Tracy, and Officer Kevin Wilds. On December 11th, 2024, at 7:27 p.m., Officer Kassim Baydoun, Officer Ryan Bush, Officer Jason Rands, and Sergeant Paul Korb responded to the 1200 block of Kenilworth Street on a report of shots fired. Multiple 911 callers took cover in their homes after hearing gunshots in the area. Upon arrival, officers were able to gather intel on a suspect vehicle description and determined that the incident was a drive-by shooting. Officers went door to door checking residents to determine that no one was injured in their homes. Detective Sergeant Jody Horn and Detective Ryan Tracy and evidence technician Sergeant Michael Fowler were called in from home and arrived on scene. They began interviewing the witnesses and collecting evidence. Suspects were quickly identified and taken into custody within a couple of hours. Detective Tracy and Detective Sergeant Horn interviewed the suspects, and Sergeant Michael Fowler processed the scene, collecting evidence. Officer Kevin Wilds assisted the Detective Bureau in their investigation by canvassing the area and recovering surveillance footage from multiple locations. He actually went door to door in over 40 places. The case was presented by detectives to the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office, and the suspects were charged with the intentional discharge of a firearm from a motor vehicle endangering the safety of another person. As a team, officers and detectives' quick response and diligent work on this case led to a swift apprehension of the suspects and felony charges being issued. For their dedication to this community, Officer Bush, Officer Baydoun, Officer Rance, Sergeant Korb, Officer Wilds, Detective Tracy, Detective Sergeant Horn, and Sergeant Fowler are hereby awarded the unit commendation. Officer Ryan Bush.
Stay here. Stay here.
Sergeant Paul Korb. Sergeant Michael Fowler, still on his run. Detective Sergeant Jody Horn. Detective Ryan Tracy. And Officer Kevin Wilds.
So if we can get the council behind you again.
There we go. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Might need a box to stand on.
Detective Tracy, you can stay up here. I have 2 awards for Detective Tracy. They're both commendations. I'll read them individually and I'll present to you. In June of 2024, Detective Tracy was assigned an embezzlement case that occurred at a business located on South Main Street. The victimized business had $5,134 embezzled from them. Detective Tracy spent the next 3 months working through bank records and interviewing witnesses and possible suspects. He worked with both the victim and the identified suspect to come to a resolution that included the return of the funds to the victim. On September 9th, 2024, I received a letter from the business owners expressing their appreciation and praise of Detective Tracy. The letter specifically stated, Detective Tracy exceeded all expectations in his timely resolution of this complaint. Detective Tracy went the extra mile to learn the nuances of nonprofit organizations, sifted through a tedious number of documents, and was very thorough and professional throughout. He did an overall outstanding job in getting all parties to set aside their emotions and come to a practical solution. For Detective Tracy's commitment to this case and his dedication to the businesses in our community, Detective Tracy is hereby awarded a commendation. And a second commendation on August 16th, 2024, Clawson police officers were dispatched to a construction site on Selfridge Avenue for the report of a larceny of a trailer with approximately $12,000 worth of copper stolen. Detective Tracy was assigned this case for investigation. He was able to utilize our new Flock system cameras along with other surveillance footage that he collected and identify a suspect vehicle. Through his further investigation and the execution of search warrants and the analysis of phone records, Detective Tracy was able to establish probable cause linking a suspect to the vehicle and the crime. He presented this case to our Oakland County Prosecutor's Office, and on October 31st, 2024, felony charges of larceny were authorized. The subject was later apprehending and is facing these charges. For his commitment to the investigation of this larceny and his dedication to the community, Detective Tracy is awarded a commendation.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
First time doing it.
I like that.
Okay.
Sergeant Paul Korb. On February 28th, 2024, at approximately 3:21 a.m., Sergeant Korb observed a suspicious vehicle in the area of 14 Mile and Rochester Road. He then observed this vehicle entering a residential neighborhood. He proceeded to make a traffic stop, and after making contact with the driver, he observed that there was a young female in the back seat who was distraught. Through his investigation on scene, he learned that the driver was an Uber driver that was supposed to be making a transport to the city of Birmingham from the area of 14 Mile and Rochester. The suspect driver did not take a simple direct route westbound down 14, and instead was driving in circles throughout residential neighborhoods, which added to the suspicion. The female passenger advised officers on scene she did not feel safe, and Sergeant Korb arranged for the young woman to get a ride home. On March 21st, 2024, I received a letter from the young woman's parents thanking and praising Officer Korb for recognizing that their daughter was in fear and for ensuring that she made it home safely. Due to Officer Korb's vigilance and instincts, a potentially dangerous situation was thwarted. For his commitment and dedication to the safety of this woman in our community, Sergeant Paul Korb is awarded a commendation.
Let's count them.
Oh.
We're getting it down.
The next award is a life-saving award. This is Officer Jason Rands, Officer Kassim Beydoun, Paramedic Michelle Lularaj. Close. Paramedic Leah Maynard. You can come on up, please. And Officer Rands and Officer Beydoun are not here this evening. On November 8th, 2024, at approximately 7:56 p.m., Officer Jason Rands and Officer Kassim Beydoun were dispatched to the parking lot of 1220 West 14 Mile Road on the report of an unconscious person who had fallen and was not breathing. Officer Rands and Officer Beydoun arrived on scene along with Universal Ambulance paramedics. Can you tell me how to say it right? Lugre and Maynard. They arrived on scene, observed that this subject did not have a pulse, and began CPR. Officer Rands drove the ambulance to Royal Oak Beaumont Hospital, while Officer Beydoun and paramedics continued CPR and life-saving measures in the back of the ambulance. We later learned that the resident suffered a cardiac arrest and made a complete recovery. Officers and paramedics' quick response and immediate life-saving actions resulted in directly saving this person's life. For their dedication to the community, they are receiving a life-saving award today. This one is Michelle. This one is Leah. And stay up for council. All right. This one is a Narcan Life Saving Award, Officer Elena Barnett and Officer Dmitry Nikolov. On January 22nd, 2024, at approximately 10:44 a.m., Officer Barnett and Officer Nikolov responded to the Comfort Inn Hotel on a report of an unconscious person who is suffering from a narcotics overdose. Upon arrival, officers learned that the subject had consumed a specific narcotic, and they observed this person to have very shallow breathing. They administered 2 doses of our Narcan that officers now carry in their patrol vehicles. The person then became conscious and later made a complete recovery. Due to their recognition of the severity of this medical emergency and their immediate life-saving measures, this resulted in directly saving this person's life. For their dedication to the community and to this person, Officer Barnett and Officer Nikolov are hereby awarded the Narcan Life Saving Award. And then Dimitri, you can stay up here. Oh, wait, picture with council. Sorry. This is our final award for the evening. It's Police Officer of the Year. The Police Officer of the Year is awarded for providing outstanding police services to the citizen of Clawson with the highest order of integrity and dependability and in a manner that exemplifies the goals of our department. Officer of the Year is peer nominated and is awarded to recognize an officer who is an all-around exceptional police officer, someone who has gone above and beyond the duty requirements and exceeds expectations of their position on a regular basis. In 2024 alone, Officer Nikolov instructed our police department in defensive tactics. He is a use and force instructor, which he went to the training for, and instructed our department on use of force with the use of scenario-based ammunition training. He was selected as a field training officer and trained our last 2 most recent hires. He was also selected and trained as a taser instructor this past fall and has began training our police department for our transition to new tasers. Officer Nikolov regularly flexed his schedule to accommodate our shift shortages earlier this year and worked to become fully staffed. He is a leader in self-initiated field activity on a regular basis and, most importantly, always has a positive attitude. For his commitment and dedication to the community, Officer Dmitry Nikolov is hereby awarded the 2024 Police Officer of the Year. So I have 2 things. We have a plaque on the wall that hadn't been updated in a couple of years, so we got it updated. Now has Dimitri's name on it, so you can hang it on the wall where it goes. And then just one last thing, Sergeant Fowler, is he back from that call? Can you come on up? We want to make sure you get your proper awards. I know we already read them, but I just want to re-recognize that Sergeant Fowler was receiving a unit commendation for the stabbing that occurred in May. And he's receiving a unit commendation for his work involved in the shooting that occurred this past December. If you don't mind 1 second, we'll make sure you get some. picture with
Yep, with council, yep. And council, if you can stay there, everybody, come on up, all the police, the whole police department, please.
And the paramedics.
Make sure you guys show off your plaque. How about, yeah,
He wants to stand by you, Ryan.
So family and friends of our police department, you can join us in the community center room right down the hall. If you want to take any other pictures with your family, and for fun teenies.
Thank you, Chief Baus, and all of you who serve on this department, for each one of you officers, for our, I don't know, I can't say the word, but tell me, EMS people, right, and for the office staff that we have here. You know, they're an incredible team, but most importantly, they're a group of really incredible individuals who put a lot at stake here for our community, and we're really grateful for them. So thank you so much. Now, we're going to move on to business. Next up, we have a proclamation recognizing February as Black History Month. Whereas February 2025 marks the 49th anniversary of the observation in the United States of Black History Month, every president since Gerald Ford has officially designated the month of February as Black History Month. And whereas since then, the celebration of Black History Month has been important to appreciating and recognizing the crucial roles African Americans have played in the creation of America and their inalienable right to be treated equally while increasing the visibility of African American life and history. And whereas the city of Clawson also recognizes the strength, endurance, and faith of African American ancestors in their struggle for freedom and pays tribute to their continuous pursuit of overcoming injustices, and whereas during this month and throughout the year, we should take time to recognize and celebrate the history of African Americans and their arts, their achievements, contributions, sacrifices, and bravery on their journey to justice in our nation. And whereas studying this important part of history and reflecting on the burdens of racial prejudice and stereotypes can open the door to innovative ideas and provide insight into building an environment in Clawson that supports our continued efforts to combat racism, to strive toward racial equity, and to be a place of freedom, opportunity, and inclusiveness for everyone. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Paula Milan, Mayor of Clawson, do hereby proclaim February 2025 as Black History Month in the city of Clawson. Thank you. We will move to item number 8A. Item number 8A is consideration of approving the following consent agenda. First is the minutes of the regular city council meeting held on Tuesday, February 4th, 2025, as presented, and then we have a list of bills in the amount of $929,869.57.
I move the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Support.
Thank you. Michelle?
Councilmember Biankowski?
Yes.
Mayor Milan?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Thank you. We've approved our consent agenda. We'll move to item number 9A. Item number 9A is consideration of a second reading and adoption of ordinance number 787 to amend Clawson Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 5, Finance, to add Division 3, Contracts.
A motion?
Yep. Motion?
Oh,
Anyone?
Make a motion.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move that we consider the second reading and adoption of the ordinance number 787 to amend the Clausen Code of Ordinances.
I'll support it. Mr. Raker?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Per the new charter, Chapter 14.01, the City Council shall establish by ordinance the procedures for the purchasing of contracting for supplies, materials, equipment, and service. This item was before you on January 9th and was not supported by council due to the removal of the waiver of competitive bidding requirement, of which would have required 4 members of council to vote in the affirmative. That component has been included in this version and was discussed at the ordinance committee meeting on January 21st. The first reading was approved at the last city council meeting on February 4th, 2025.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for City Manager? Mr. Minkowski?
I've got some comments on this. I won't be supporting it for a couple of reasons. Number one, putting in this ordinance that it takes 4 persons instead of a percentage of people, I think is being a little short-sighted, especially since, as it is right now, this council is expected to expand to 7 people and come next November. So that would make it a simple majority, could allow the city manager to override the competitive bidding process. The other part that I don't like about it is it gets rid of a lot of the sealed bid requirements that were in the previous language. The difference between a sealed bid or sealed, bid processes, they're all opened at the same time in the public. And I think that's an important safeguard that we should maintain. So I will be voting against this.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I second and I said it last time too, the dissatisfaction with it not being a percentage. It's short-sighted, especially as it stands right now, the council's, position to grow. The special election may change that, but that would require us to have to go back and fix it. So in the absence of the percentage, I would also be voting no.
You? No? Okay, absent any other comments? Let's go for a roll call, please, Michelle.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
No.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski,
No.
Thank you. So clearly, we're at a stalemate, so what is appropriate?
So, Madam Mayor, the way it works is that because the second reading is tied, it means the motion fails, it means the ordinance does not pass. That being the case, the only way it could come back before you is if there is a substantive change in some aspect of the ordinance, and then it can be presented to you. And I imagine that's what the administration will do, considering some of the comments, because it appears that there is agreement largely with a few nuances.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, that motion did not pass. We will move on to item 9B. Item 9B is consideration of a second reading and adoption of ordinance number 788 to amend Clausen Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 7, Boards, Section 2-311, Code of Ethics.
I move the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 788 to amend Code of Ordinance, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 7, Boards, Section 2-311, Code of Ethics be approved.
Support.
Thank you. Mr. Raker.
This item was previously discussed by the ordinance committee on October 15, 2024, January 7th, and 21st, 2025 respectively. The consensus was to amend the ordinance to be reflective of the charter language to the extent permissible by state law. It was approved for the first reading at the last council meeting on February 4th, 2024.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Raker? Okay. Roll call, please, Michelle.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski,
No.
Mayor Milan.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. We just approved the ordinance number 788, Ethics Ordinance Amendment. That was our second reading, so that will move forward. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 9C, we have consideration of the second reading and adoption of an ordinance number 789 to amend Chapter 36 sign regulations.
I move the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 789 to amend Chapter 36 sign regulations be approved.
Support.
Nick?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is also a second reading of an ordinance which was presented for the first time on February 4th. Included in this proposed ordinance amendment are 5 amendments to the sign ordinance. These amendments include proposed changes to existing language and also clarification on items that were amended in the 2023 sign ordinance amendment. These amendments are as follows. 36-4 upper wall signs in the city center and CMD districts, which are both located in downtown. This amendment will allow additional signage for second floor uses. The current language in the ordinance restricts these businesses to limited signage. The amendment will allow more flexibility for our second floor businesses and is more aligned with the rest of the provisions in place for businesses in downtown Clawson. The other one is 36-5 mural language. This provides the standards for murals and public art that were included in the previous sign ordinance that were omitted from the 2023 sign ordinance update with anticipation of a new mural program that was developed. Additionally, 36-6 temporary A-frame signage. This allows businesses to use temporary A-frame signs in non-city center and CMD districts. Included in this amendment are enforcement guidelines for non-compliance if they do not follow the existing temporary sign standards for businesses in the city center and CMD districts. 36-7 non-conforming signs includes an amendment for existing freestanding signs that would allow multiple tenant freestanding signs to replace panels as long as the freestanding sign is in compliance with the height requirement. And the final amendment is repeals the previous sign amendment to the sign ordinance language was understood by the city to repeal the sections listed below. However, the code service has not removed those sections, and this amendment explicitly repeals them in order to have them removed from the online sign code. The sign ordinance approved in 2023 should have repealed sections 36-8 through 36-20. So that was just included in this amendment for procedural process.
Thank you, Nick. Does anyone have any questions? Roll call, please, Michelle.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett.
Yes.
Thank you. We have just approved our second reading and adoption of ordinance number 789 to amend Chapter 36 sign regulations. Moving on to item 9D, we have consideration of a reappointment for Diane Smith to our Zoning Board of Appeals for a term to expire December 31st, 2027.
I move the reappointment of Diane Smith to the Zoning Board of Appeals, term to expire December 31st, 2027, be approved.
Support.
Any questions? Roll call, please, Michelle.
Councilmember Binkowski,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. We have just approved that Diane Smith will once again serve or continue to serve on our Zoning Board of Appeals with a term to expire December 31st, 2027. I'd like to say thank you to Diane. Diane served for many years, and she does a great job chairing that board. Next item we have is item 9E. We have consideration of appointment of Alex Speckshock to the Downtown Development Authority. Alec is a resident, and he will be serving, if approved tonight, for an expired term of October 31st, 2024. Term of October 31st, 2024 to expire October 31st, 2028.
I move the appointment of Alex Speckshock to the Downtown Development Authority resident to a term to expire, to the expiration, let me try that again. To the expired term of October 31st, 2024 to expire October 31st, 2028 be approved.
Support.
Thank you. Sir?
Is this replacing someone who's currently on the DDA or was on the DDA?
It's a vacancy.
What's that?
It's to fill a vacancy.
Okay, where did the vacancy come from?
Someone stopped serving, and we had a vacancy.
But
so it
who
is a
stopped
vacancy.
serving?
I don't recall we've had a vacancy for a while, and this fills that vacancy.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go with my previous policy of not voting for DDA appointments until Mayor Milan takes the courageous step and reappoints Mary Liz Curtin to the board.
Well, that is within your rights, and that was a very courageous thing you just did. to be expected. Does anyone have any comments regarding this? Nope, thank you. Roll call, please, Michelle.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski.
No.
Thank you. We've just approved that Alex Beckshock will serve on the DDA moving forward until October 31st, 2028. Alec is a really nice, he's a resident. He works for Key Bank here in town. He has joined the Lions Club. He's the director, is that the correct term? The director of the Chamber of Commerce, and is just open to serving in many capacities for us. We're really excited to have him serve in the DDA. Item 9F is consideration of an appointment of Nate Hara to the Planning Commission for an unexpired term of December 31st, 2025.
I move the appointment of Nate Hara to the Planning Commission, unexpired term of December 31st, 2025 be approved.
Support.
Thank you. Any comments?
I just have a question, sorry. Is this replacing someone that resigned or something? Because it only goes till 2025?
It's replacing someone who's resigned a bit ago, so it only goes till 2025,
So the seat's been vacant for some time.
vacant for a little while.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir?
I just wanted to state that I'll be voting against Mr. Hara because of Mayor Milan's refusal to reappoint Laurent Nushai to the Planning Commission.
Mr. Binkowski, you always put words in my mouth, and you should, but you're within your right to not vote for him. That's okay. Any other comments? No? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski,
No.
Mayor Milan.
Yes. Thank you, Nate Hara, for your willingness to serve on the Planning Commission moving forward. You've been appointed to serve until December 31st, 2025. Moving on, we have consideration of appointment of Aidan O'Rourke to the Zoning Board of Appeals. He'll be serving in an alternate position should he be approved this evening for an unexpired term to expire December 31st, 2025.
So moved.
Support.
No objections, Mr. Binkowski? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett.
Yes.
Wow, nothing changed in between votes, but someone's vote changed, but, oh wait, I was saying that out loud. Item 9H, we have consideration of discussion of fiscal year 2025 through 2026 goals and objectives.
If someone could move discussion, please.
Oh. I move that we have a consideration of discussing goals and objectives for fiscal year 2025 and 26.
Nice. I'll support that.
Okay, last year, the city council and administration had productive discussions on its mutually agreed upon goals and objectives for the current fiscal year. Late last month, all department heads and myself met to review in preparation for the upcoming fiscal year budget for 25-26. The product of their review is provided here and was provided in the January 30th issue of the Friday feedback for council members' reflection and for this future discussion. Proposed changes are simply highlighted and crossed out, most due to their completion, combinations, or simple text changes for greater relevance. The intent of this discussion is to solicit comment on these suggestions and seek additional input from council.
Okay. Any comments or concerns? I was fine with your proposed schedule, and I'm fine with moving forward with what you've presented.
As I have received some feedback from two members of council so far in regards to the budget schedule.
Any other comments? Okay, we've discussed these as much as people apparently do care to this evening. That's it? We don't need to make a motion to vote because we're not doing anything. Hey, that was easy.
Is there any additional thought, Mike, to develop some methods to invest the ARPA funds?
Oh, that would be great. What, okay, so how would we go about that, actually?
Well, I mean, if you've kind of characterized it like this is an opportunity, I think you've said, money from your grandmother, your aunt, and, let's do something that we normally necessarily wouldn't do. as far as to the benefit of the community, not just strictly an investment in infrastructure.
True. Mr. Bukowski?
I was under the impression that all the ARPA funds were budgeted to the police department.
They were, to account for them accurately under the expenditure requirement for the last year, they were put in the general fund for police wages. But we do have those funds that are set aside. It was just basically general funds, ARPA funds, and switched it for accounting purposes. If you recall, the gentleman from Yo-Yo was here and made that advisement to council that that was acceptable to meet the requirement of appropriations of the ARPA funds by the end of the calendar year.
Basically placeholder, if I recall.
Correct.
Said, right. I think several of us have had comments about things that we would like to do with ARPA funds. That would be those extras. So how do we, what would you suggest we do to begin making those discussions, having those discussions?
Well, I mean,
I know Councilmember Shepherd has an idea he would like floated. He's not here today to do that, so I'd like to do it while he's.
I can't speak for him, but I know he is interested in providing some amenities at the city park that would foster, concerts or some type of shows to that effect, to provide for a stage in a permanent capacity. I mean, or if it's the will of the council, they're like, hey, put it on miscellaneous concrete, I can do that too. But, I mean, I think there's some opportunities here that maybe council can explore.
Is there a time limit for spending the ARPA at this point?
I mean, internally, we're fencing it as the ARPA funding, but I mean, in its literal sense, it was used for police wages. But you have roughly $600,000 in the general fund that was formerly known as the ARPA fund.
All right.
So how would we go? Question. I know at some point there's a conversation about a special project that has never been presented to this body.
That's true.
That would be a potential. Councilmember Shepherd's idea of something at the park, also a potential. And both of those ideas would be something that would be community-based, someplace the community could come to and gather. And I think whatever we do with the special portion that we spend, I'd really just like to ensure that it is allocated and promoted in such a way that it harkens back to the sacrifice people made during the time of COVID, that it is something special and it is something for the entirety of the community. That we could all look to and say, that came from that time that was extremely difficult for many people who lost people that they loved during that time, but also just an interesting phase of life that we all lived through. So, my thoughts. So is that something we address at the budget meetings
Well,
that we have scheduled?
can, if that March 11th meeting for discussions with department heads works for council members, that's something that can be delved into there as well. But I mean, having some public conversations about how to do this, I've actually written 2 memos on this as far as how to spend the money, as far as efficiency is concerned, safety recommendations along those lines. I can unearth those memos for recommendations, but you had your through the chamber, the idea of the heart was one thing that was gathering some steam, and then I know Councilmember Shepherd was very interested in doing something specific for the park, so.
And we've never presented the heart project to the council as a body, so would it be a good idea for us to begin there? And then also gather some information that on the project our Councilmember Shepherd would like to embark upon and have some information for that as well. Not that we have to select one or both of them. And then also this body should have discussions. We wouldn't definitely spend $600,000 on extra projects, but it would be nice to maybe identify new benches and park benches and playground equipment and something at the senior center. If we could just kind of allocate things throughout the community that different segments of the population would benefit from, that are still those things that you wouldn't be able to normally do, but people could say this came from that. Because I think it would be nice. I mean, we could also just take all of the money and spend it on daily business, but we did, I use that same analogy throughout this whole time for a reason. It's special money, right? It's something above and beyond, and we should do something above and beyond with it, is my thought. If this body agrees.
I plan to have this on for discussions for the next several council meetings until council members are ready to, like, last year we actually had a vote and then they were included in the actual budget.
Does anyone else have any ideas about how they would like ARPA spent? No?
I can't understand how we can last meeting talk about not being able to afford the Renshaw apartments and can't afford the upgrades that are necessary for that, and then talk about having $600,000 and we're going to spend it on a heart or benches. I mean, we have very specific things that need to happen in this community. The Hunter Community Center needs renovations. It's, I don't think we have the luxury of having just extra money when we have very, very fundamental things that need to be addressed, is my thoughts.
You took some of the words that we have said and twisted them to make it seem like this body, or someone said that they didn't have money to take care of Renshaw, or didn't have money for something else. I don't think those words were ever uttered. This is just a different pocket of money. We're trying to determine what to do with it, and they're very separate issues, and that's how we should look at it, as very separate issues.
With all due respect, I didn't twist anything. We're talking about $600,000. And my dad always used to say there's no such thing as extra money. Money's money. And we have very, very real, tangible needs that need to be addressed. And my opinion is that if we have $600,000, we should address all those very tangible, important human things first. That's my opinion.
Perfect. Councilmember Binkowski, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I do, and I have really good ideas, but I know if I suggest them, they will never happen, so I'm just going to keep my mouth shut.
I'd like to hear them.
Me too.
You might just get my support.
Probably not.
When this isn't Vegas, we don't have to worry about probabilities. You can just speak it and we can figure it out.
Okay, does anyone have anything else on this topic? Otherwise,
I think I'd just like to add that whatever we spend it on, I think needs to be of a very practical nature. Anything artistic, whether it be a heart or something else, I fear could be misconstrued as wasting of money in the city. We know it's a different bucket, but our citizens often perceive it all as one. I mean, we've had many citizens who complain about what the school district is doing, and they come to us and we explain to them that we don't have any authority over how the school district works. So it might go with artistic things. That we might look at that and say, well, doesn't the city have more serious practical needs than to put up beautiful art? So I think that's my concern. I'm not totally against any art, but if we are going to beautify the city, we should be very temperate in how we approach it.
fair. Okay. Let's move on to our next item then. Under unfinished business, I would like to bring up the Renshaw project that we were talking about during the last meeting, only to say, is it possible that we set up a meeting, like I had suggested last time, so that we can have a broader discussion of the property and moving forward? And I know you need to discuss this for budgeting purposes, and it doesn't have to be right away. I'm not asking for something immediate, but I did have people contact me to see if that's something that was going to happen, because I'm the one that proposed it last time, so.
Madam
Mr.
Mayor, are you
Ingram-
making a motion?
No, I'm asking a question.
Okay, this is unfinished business, the proper place to, in Robert's Rules of Order, to ask questions?
I don't know. You probably would be able to tell me more than I would be able to tell you. And
The mayor is bringing up a topic that was previously been
Thank
brought
you.
up, so I think in that sense, yes, it is.
so, guess what, Mr. Minkowski? Out of order. Someone have an answer for me on that question that I got cut off on? Is
You
it
want to
possible?
have a more robust, like, discussion on this?
I want to have a more robust discussion open to the public. Well, of course, open to the public. Yes, I do. I would like that. And I think it would be beneficial for you for budgeting purposes as well. So if we could do that, maybe we can include it in another meeting. I would want to include it in a regular meeting so that people would just attend. But maybe make it
In the or the March 11th meeting as well, or?
whenever. I mean, it could be later than that if you'd like as well. I just want people to understand that no decisions have been made on Renshaw. We can't make a decision. We made that really clear last time. We're not selling Renshaw out from underneath anyone. Everyone has a place to live. But the reason we discussed it in the beginning was because it's budgetary issues. And that's something that you have to figure out where we're going to spend money. But there was also the thought about long-term goals for that property. And if we could have a conversation with all the bodies involved, we could have a good conversation and everyone could feel like they have input. And then we could all walk away with just a better picture of why there was a discussion in the first place and what we would want to do as a community moving forward, whether it's improvements or anything else. Does that sound fair?
I think we can probably include it for the March 11th meeting. If it may become more prudent and relevant to have it as its own standalone item possibly, too.
Okay,
So-
I'll let you decide that. I think it would be yours to decide.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it should be a standalone meeting.
Okay, then we don't need to give you direction, but that's understood, correct? Does anyone else have anything that they would consider unfinished business for this evening? Okay, then we'll move on to the next item, which is public comments for items not on the agenda. If you are in the audience and you'd like to speak to any item that we have not yet discussed today, we welcome you to the podium and ask you to give your name and address, and we will give you 3 minutes.
Hello, Madam Mayor and City Council and Administration. Over a year ago, Culver's, the owner of Culver's, came to the city and got approval to build their building. And I'm happy as a board member of the Chamber of Commerce to tell you that Monday, October 24th, at 10 o'clock in the morning, you can go to Culver's and taste their delicious food and have sundaes and everything else. I think this is such a great thing. And I was so surprised that over a year ago, they actually joined the chamber and paid dues, the highest dues that we have, to be part of this community. And I just hope everybody will welcome them. I'm excited. We've got other new businesses that are opening in Clawson. It's really taking place, and it's so exciting to see. So I hope everybody, whether they're a chamber member or not, please support them.
Char, you
Thank
meant
you.
February, correct?
Pardon me?
You meant February, correct?
24th.
All right.
Yep, Monday.
Said October.
And they're open at 10 till 10, and if you want to do the drive-in, till 11.
Wow, good to know. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Erin Redmond. I live on West Elmwood. I wasn't going to talk about it until you guys brought it up, but just a suggestion for ARPA funds. Planning Commission did oversee, or just not oversee, we saw a Parks and Rec master plan, and they had a lot of great ideas, and they've already surveyed residents. So I think that that might be a good resource for you guys to kind of meet all your needs of fundamental, like tangible, good things and fun stuff too. So maybe just a suggestion, an idea. I also wanted to talk about the Renshaw. Last time I was here, I was told I was absurd for alluding to a 3-year time period when I mentioned that if it was purchased, there would be about a 3-year time gap where the residents might need to find housing. Since then, I looked, Roth took 3 years to build. So I don't think that it's absurd. I think that if we're going to have conversations, let's not try to stonewall or try to misguide people in what that might look like. Thinking of putting residents into a different housing for 3 years, you know, at, let's see, $1,500 a month, that would cost the city $800,000. $2,000 a month, you're over $1 million. So I think it's important to put real numbers and real real thought into this. I know that you guys aren't looking to displace anyone. I know that you have the best intentions in saying we wouldn't put you out and we would take care of you for the rest of your life, but that also costs money. So I think it's important that moving forward that we actually take a real look at the numbers. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak this evening?
Why not?
You're here.
Yeah, why not? I'm back. Linda Hale, 940 West Selfridge, and I'd like to speak on behalf of the seniors as well. So I just had an idea. Instead of having a meeting here, like city council meeting and bringing it up, could we have something like at the senior center or the library where people could come in more of an informal way? Because this is kind of intimidating. It is, like you get people up here and nobody can talk back. And if we could just do something informally so that you can actually speak to the residents about what the plans are, what you would like to see happen. Because, just my opinion, but right now all I can think of is the Beatles said it best, let it be. The city already owns it. It's not your fault. I mean, you're not the ones that bought it. You're not the ones that became, the people that, lease it. I mean, the city already has it. Just leave it alone. I mean, if we can afford it, just leave it alone and leave them alone. I mean, and I would like to be able to sit around in a group with other residents and some of the seniors too, because I'm sure they get intimidated, just like I get intimidated being up here. I'd like to, maybe we could, instead of having it at a city council meeting, think about, having it somewhere else where we can all sit around in a big circle and talk. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Zach Burbridge. I live at 665 West Baker. I've lived there for about 6 years. I wasn't really intending to speak. I wasn't sure how this process worked. Admittedly, this is my first city council attendance. But first off, I want to acknowledge the efforts that our DPW makes. Our public workers do an excellent job keeping the streets, clearing the streets, upkeeping the things that we ask of them. But I have noticed, I'm right at Baker and Bywood, I have noticed this year specifically a decrease in the frequency in which, and if this is an inappropriate place to talk about this, please advise me how to address it. But their deployment seems less frequent for snow removal. There was a couple ice storms earlier this month where I leave for work at 5:30, and usually by then, I live in Clawson by choice. I understand we pay high taxes. I love the small city because of things like our public services that we have. I've lived in Royal Oak for years. I've lived in Madison Heights. I've lived in Ferndale. I choose Clawson, and I choose Clawson every day. But that being said, I'm not judging their effort. I am just asking a question. Has there been any reduction in budget? I looked over the proposed budget, but I'm asking if there's been any reduction in budget that would limit their scheduling on these events. Okay. So I have noticed. I'm just bringing it to the attention. My wife leaves early with the kids usually. A couple of those days were extremely icy, and I can count on 2 fingers how many times I've beat the salt trucks out, and they were both this month. So again, thank you. I would also like to just make a quick mention to the ARPA funds. You guys asked for the city of Clawson, the residents, to vote for more money and to basically pull more of our share for infrastructure. Times are tough. Everybody's dollars are stretched. And I would like to see that money go towards something practical, something that wouldn't be transient like an event. That's mine. That's my opinion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak this evening? Okay, then we'll close public comments and go to our city clerk's report. Michelle?
No report tonight.
Thank you. Our city attorney report?
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to let you know that we, with respect to the May election, we did receive letters from the Attorney General and the Governor's Office approving the ballot language, so we're all set, and thank you for all your work with respect to that.
Thank you very much. Let us go to our city manager's report. Mr. Baker?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sewer cleaning and inspection continues as weather permits. Since the last council meeting, our contractor completed Roth at my request and continues to work in the northwest section of the city. The current area of work has only 2 remaining segments to complete before moving to the next section to the east. As a reminder, we have a sectional map of the city that is updated when necessary and is located on the City of Clawson website under DPW and Engineering titled Cleaning and Televising Sewers. Pending any questions, that's my report.
Okay, thank you very much. How about city council comments? Councilmember Minkowski.
Nothing for me.
Councilmember Moffett.
I got nothing.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson.
No comment.
I just want to tell everyone, thank you for participating this evening. And I don't really have anything either. Oh, and thank you to the DPW and everyone who's outside in the cold. It's been horrible. And it was a better week. I didn't see a whole list of those things that happen to pop up that are really inconvenient and really cold for them for long periods of time. So I won't say it out loud because we don't want another one to happen, right? Does someone like to make a motion?
I move we adjourn.
Support.
Michelle?
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Vinkowski.
Yes.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Craig? I'm gonna steal one. You want one? It's old people candy. They're old. Sure?